The Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919. It didn't become effective until January 10, 1920. It was signed in the Hall of Mirrors in the Palace of Versailles in Paris, France. The major leaders that signed it were Woodrow Wilson, David Lloyd George, Vittorio Orlando, and George Clemenceau. They were called the Big Four. Woodrow Wilson proposed the 14 points. He helped create the League of Nations, but the U.S. never joined. He also wanted peace without victory. Vittorio Orlando was just the prime minister of Italy at the time. He didn't really have any wants. David Lloyd George proposed Germany pay. He wanted to expand British Empire, maintain British control of the seas, and increase British trade. George Clemenceau wanted Germany to pay as well. He wanted to weaken Germany so that France would never be invaded again.
So now for the terms discussed in the Treaty of Versailles between just about all the major powers aside from Germany. The first thing is territory. Germany had to give up about 10% of its land. Alsace-Lorraine returned to France. Small bits of territory went to Belgium. And northern Schleswig went to Denmark. Then, in a similar vein, colonies. And the map we're showing Germany will be brown. Germany lost all of its overseas colonies, including a little bit in China, Pacific Islands, and colonies in Africa, which were all given to some mixture of Britain, France, and Japan. There were military restrictions placed on Germany. They were completely demilitarized so that they would hopefully never pose a war threat again. The army was reduced to 10,000 men. Generals eliminated. Production of supplies for war was entirely halted. Negotiation hoped that other countries would also reduce their military, although that was not specifically mandated in this treaty. So for this next bit, it's kind of important to mention again that Germany did not have a big voice in the terms, seeing as it had just lost the war, and one of the things that all the other countries decided was that Germany should have to pay their war costs. So that includes money spent on the war and damages to people and property of these other countries. The price then was translated to about 31.4 billion, which is today a staggering $442 billion. The next bit that was discussed was the League of Nations. However, that was not created until later in 1920.
So I'm going to talk about the outcomes of the war, specifically in Germany. So, as you can see in this photo, Germany was a lot different in 1914 than it was in 1923. As Conor probably talked about, there were harsh restrictions, specifically debts, and they had to give about 13% of the land. Now I'm talking about how the Treaty of Versailles led to economic deprivation and eventually the rise to Adolf Hitler. So, Germany needed a new way to pay these debts. And they did this through something called social spending. This is basically investing in new facilities and services to basically create jobs. They tried increasing this by 500%, and as shown through the picture, which is basically people lining up for food, and it kind of reminds you of photos from the American Depression, it did not work. The revenues plummeted, the municipal finance collapsed in 1930. But also there was another factor, was the income tax. Now, before World War I, it accounted for about 53% of Germany's tax revenue. However, after the war and during Germany's plummet, it went down to about 28%. Now, the German people needed something, and that's what Hitler supposedly offered. The first thing was a brand new economic plan. Now, this was basically trying to bolster the military to create jobs, but it was something. It was something that the German people absolutely needed. Another was that Hitler offered a scapegoat, and that was the Jews. Jews were generally the wealthy ones during this time. They were owners of the most successful businesses, and by offering something to blame, the German people could finally unite and take down this economic disaster. And this eventually led to Hitler's popularity, and sadly, the horrors of World War II.